Father, we just want to thank you for this family. We thank you for this time, Father, your Shabbat, where we can just sit at your feet and we can just sit with one heart and with one mind, Father, and we just seek your face. Thank you for this time together. Thank you for what you're doing here, Father. Thank you just for being with us, for choosing us, for loving us. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen. Amen. Okay. So you guys have these 3 hours of homework that you did.
Yeah, I was alone.
I don't know how long it took you. Genesis 20 and 21?
No.
You did 19. No, what did you guys do last week? The discussion. 20 and 21. No. So, you guys are going to have to...
Now it's the test.
On the
Yep.
end, please, you must talk for us. I on our didn't take any notes.
You didn't take notes?
No, we were talking so much about everything, and none of us, I don't think anybody wrote
I didn't even take notes.
Well, because you've studied it, you understand the text, and then you're going to say, this is what I found important, or this is what I didn't understand.
But you see, the problem comes in.
Yes.
Or like the parliament members would say, the problem
It's
is...
a challenge.
the
Honorable member.
honorable member, the problem is that if you are not there,
Totally different.
Very different.
everything changes. We fall into...
New regime. And he's now talking from an orange jumpsuit.
We are looking... That's the orange jumpsuit. We are actually coming...
to go up the mountain.
No,
Yeah.
What?
we got...
You come back.
That man is recording. So when you are not present,
This is 2 years of study.
when you are not present, we actually move to another location. And in that location, we talk about a lot of things.
Distraction.
No, there were cats and dogs.
Oh, yes, no.
And we are totally in the Word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, we read everything.
Yes.
We read everything and then...
I have no doubt you read it. So
But it goes like this.
Uh-huh.
And it came to pass after these things stop. And then we talk.
What are you finding?
What do you understand about that passage?
How
And
many
then-
years do you think it was? Now, how old was he? Where was he? Why was he there?
Jolly good.
Because I want to put them there.
That's how we go through it.
Well, I love it because first session is
You come on a
basically
tour
going
of
to be on,
And we
20
literally
and
had one
21.
session.
yeah, so you've got 2 sessions today. I'm going to tie up with 22, which is the biggest one, and 23 is going to be the add-in in Christ,
Yeah,
right?
but we did 20 and 21 in one session.
Yeah, which is why you guys are so well versed that you're going to explain your things.
Okay.
Have overlook in your notes what stuck out for you, what
He didn't
didn't.
take notes.
Read over
Stuck out.
the read over the text.
What did we say about what did we learn about it? En toe sê jy nog ja wat oor Abraham wat bly jok in dieselfde ding jok.
Yes. You're still stuck in that same mentality of being
Yes.
scared of
Yeah.
And I'm still stuck with why did that other auntie that ran away with the child. Hagar. She put her 18-year-old son under a tree because her son was too hot.
We're gonna
He's
get
18 years old. Go fetch your own water, bruh.
okay. Let's start.
As the word as what you
Now, let's start with 20. The reason I will do this to you guys is because me listening to you helps me gauge where you are. Okay?
And that is where are we?
Exactly. I remember I'm building. We have to build up so that one day you guys can make your own Talmudim.
And we're gonna have lots of fun.
Yeah. And then you're gonna sit back and you're gonna look at these guys one day, and then like I'm looking at you. So
He's going to get into medical class.
it's like he taught you what? No, I didn't get that from me. We're gonna go talk. All right. So have a scan over Genesis 20.
they journeyed. Yeah. To the land of Gomer. Gar.
Yeah. Have a look over Genesis 20 and tell me what you see.
And then the same would happen in Egypt. That Gar.
All right, so what Chanel has already mentioned, this seems like a part 2, right?
Yes.
Okay, but this is between who?
Abraham and Abimelech.
Okay, Avimelech means what?
What does it mean something?
This is
See,
me
that's why we
asking
need
questions.
you.
No.
We did that.
Eventually,
Avi's father and Melech was king.
Oh, yeah. Oh, was it
Rusty.
this guy?
Yeah.
The
Avimelech.
guy that he blessed.
No, that was
That
Melchizedek.
was
Oh, sorry,
Melchizedek.
So what you're going to do is you're going to pick up pieces, and then one day, a generation or two down the line, there's going to be another Avimelech. Just like in Egypt, there's going to be another Pharaoh. So when we read it the first time, generally we go Avimelech, that's his name. But it looks more likely that it's a title. Okay, so then you want to try and think, okay, so what does Avimelech mean? My father the king. Okay, so we can either go, right, is he a believer? Does that fit in with that, as in Melchizedek? Or is it now something different? Because same as Melchizedek, you were going to hear about another guy called Adoni Tzedek. Adonai Tzedek, the Lord of righteousness. And then, but we're going to find that Adoni Tzedek is not the same as Melchizedek. His belief system is very different. Okay, so then we can draw parallels and things like that. So when we look at Avimelech, we're going to go, okay, this is Avimelech, that's great, where are we?
What do we say Abimelech means?
Pharaoh.
My father, the king. My father, king. He traveled toward the Negev between Kadesh and Shur. What is a Negev?
Desert.
He's in the desert, okay? So we're wandering in the desert. And all the promised land, it's interesting that he chooses to continue to dwell in the desert. Okay, I want you to hear the wanderings with Moses. In many cases, people will describe the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as the God of the desert. Now, if that's your God, what does that make it important for you? It's not in the Galilee, even though he could have settled there. And that's lush and green and beautiful, very much like him. Why is he continually choosing the Negev?
That's where you're closest to.
That's where you must survive.
So you're telling me, okay, the place which you're closest to is the place with the smallest survival rate if you're by yourself, maybe? So what is that? How does that apply to your life today?
You rely on him.
Oh, how many of us?
Yeah.
How many of us love that idea?
You hear better in the desert too.
Not plenty.
No traffic.
Right. If you're in the desert, it seems to be, well, number one, your ears are open because you are dependent.
Yeah.
Number two, if I'm in the desert, I know that he is my source. Number three, if he is in the desert, you know he's probably dealing with flocks because that's generally where we keep our sheep. We understood that from the time with Lot. Right? If I'm up in the Golan or in a Shephelah, I'm not going to be moving around as much because that's farmland. Farmland, I'm going to establish, I'm not going to be focusing too much on sheep. I'm going to be focusing on rain and crops. Okay? So you wouldn't be able to wander. All right? This is a nomadic lifestyle. And I want you to, again, think about this. Avram, with over 300 people, every time it's time to move, we all pack up, we go. Does that look like a foreshadow to anything? Yes, and what was the key indicator for Moses and the Israelites that it was time to move?
Yeah.
When we saw God move, we moved. Why?
Otherwise they die.
What is wrong with you?
But he was staying on
He's-
What is wrong?
She's not wrong. Your reliance, if God moves and he says, all right, I'm going there, that's where the blessing is because that's where he is. That's where the provision is because that's where he is. You get taught a very important principle in that fact is that wherever God is, you're okay. If you choose in disobedience not to move when he moves,
Yeah.
do the math. If you choose to move when he doesn't move, you do the math. Ultimately, it comes down to source. Remember the El Shaddai. Right? Abraham understood it. It didn't matter where it didn't matter where he was. As long as God was with him, nothing else mattered. If you want to be true sons of Abraham or sons and daughters of Abraham, you need to believe like Abraham. It doesn't matter where you are. The world can be falling to pieces. If you're in the middle of his palm, nothing else matters. Okay? And yet, what do we find? What do we find different about this story than Pharaoh's story?
In this story, Abimelech was a person of righteousness.
Okay. And how did God interrupt this? You're my sister, fib, once more.
With a dream.
Okay, dream, right? And what is, okay, you're sitting over there, you think you're doing every right, you see this lovely, beautiful young lady at the age of about 90 years old.
A beautiful
I'm
young
usually
lady.
5 years old.
90 years old, and then he, the ruler of the land, comes and takes her and says, that's the one for me.
We discussed that it was probably a political move, not an emotional, romantic number.
Yeah.
We discussed that.
You think where the political move would only be?
Well, I mean, Abram's wealthy, and I mean, here he is. He's got 300 fighting men. I'm like,
He's got a couple of scorpions and walking
let's take
stupid.
one of them. We have a little bit of a closer. I can't get past 90.
Yes, so it makes it more logical to do if it was a political play.
No, it could be. There was
could
a
be.
possibility.
Yes.
We were not counting the crow's feet.
There we go.
Right, but
Either way, they never told us.
yes, it's probably leaning towards more again the beauty of Sarah.
But the question that I've got, is it not possible? Just something I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I think.
In that time, they come with a lady that says she's 95. Okay?
Yeah.
She's gorgeous. At 95.
I love
No, wait. Let me get there.
Alles beautiful of my
No, don't. Stop it. Isn't it possible?
My wife's going to be 95 and better tell her she's beautiful.
I'll remember this day. But isn't it possible that because of they only ate certain things and all healthy things and all oils. They used all oils and stuff
All
like
day
that.
they pampered themselves.
Yes.
And milk and there's not the stuff that we're using today.
Okay.
Like fruits and everything sheep is getting or animals is getting injected with chemicals and stuff to make them grow properly and what.
Yes.
Those days they didn't have it. So the possibility of them living clean lives maybe would have made them at 95 look like 21.
Maybe it's a preservation thing. Okay, but what would be the average age of a person who in Bible times, how old do you think they would live to? Yeah, on average.
120 years.
About 120, yeah.
Eh?
About 120.
Okay.
No, if you take the other guys, you know the first group,
Yeah.
they went
Yeah.
deep in the 900s.
Yeah, but we're past that. We're come right down. Okay, an average a person's biblical lifetime. If you made it to 40 something,
You lived a life.
you lived a long life. If you were 40 and you survived, if you got to 60 or 70, this is amazing. If you get older than that, we don't even understand. You'll see that actually later when Pharaoh starts to meet Joseph's father, right? And then he starts talking to him immediately, like, how old are you? Because they were obsessed with afterlife. They wanted to know how to prolong things. This is why most of the time kids were married by the time they were 15. As a 15-year-old boy, You married, you probably got a bride, a young lady, she was probably 12 or 13 years old. And that was you. That's your scopies, that's your bookies, and then off you go. You're still going to be part of our village, you're going to build onto daddy's house. It is a much younger life, much bigger responsibility, because by the time you're 20, it's sort of, that's half your life gone. Yeah.
Sorry.
Weet jy hulle kinders met 5 slaan daai net op.
The simple. You see me afterwards for counseling, right? He wouldn't be a problem because he would be his own man, married in his own house. And remember, any rebellious child was taken out and stoned. Very different mentality. Right. You can't just say whatever you want to say to the point where there's a Torah instruction where if it got really, 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 really bad, it was part of the Torah portion this week that we discussed last week, that you would actually take them up into the Sanhedrin and say this is a rebellious son, and the men of that village would actually take him off and stone him. You would have none of the rebellion that we have. And also, I want you to consider something. Society today says you don't really understand what you're doing until you have achieved so much, or you understand so much, or you've reached a certain age, right? Look at that expectation of when people went off to war, World War I, World War II. Some of the people that stormed the beaches of Normandy were 18 years old. There was an expectation. You're a man, you got a gun, you go fight, you stand up for freedom, you go. What do we expect today in society from an 18-year-old? Besides, yes.
You're going to study.
You still haven't figured out what you want to study. You still haven't kind of figured out what you want to do with your life. Don't worry, my expectation of you is not that much. Which then makes my expectation of you being mature and an adult to make reasonable decisions goes, well, I'm only probably going to get that when you're 25. So if you act like a child up until then, it's kind of expected. And then the expectation changes even more, right? Because I know some people that will still act like a child until they're 27 because the expectation is. And then you get other people where, they're still figuring out their life. They don't really have to go rush off. Maybe we're super wealthy. My expectation of you is just stay here by mommy and daddy and we'll take care of everything else. So because there is the expectation, they will not live up to it. Or they will live up to exactly what I expect from you. But what happens if I say, you're 14 years old, next year, you're probably going to have to get ready to be married. I hope you're looking at your flock. You're a man now. At 13 years old, you're old enough, you are going to be married to someone. Maybe they're older. Maybe they're 18. And you are going to get married now at 14 years old to an 18-year-old guy. Don't worry, he's well established. He's been running his own little herd. He comes from a good family. They're going to be building him up until this point. And you say, now, you are the lady of the house. Don't make excuses. We're here, we will counsel you, and we will help where we can, but understand your expectation is. Think about those moments in your life where maturity really happened was when you had nobody else to return to and you were the person at the stuck of it. The responsibility was now yours. You had no choice. So the difference between this reality of your sort of a biblical lifestyle is that I think our expectation of younger people is maybe just being dulled. But when you look at even today in Judaism and so on, when you look at the stories of the guys who take on a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah when they come of age, it's the community now acknowledges you as an adult. Okay, you won't have the full freedoms yet, but I'm expecting of you to act as such. You're no longer a child. You will act like an adult. You will be treated like one, and that's what's going to happen. And there's been many a case where the maturity happens virtually overnight because the expectation is now there. Don't act like a kid. You're not a kid. You're a man. Show me what that looks like. You're a lady, not a child. This is what it looks like. Right? Okay. So kind of just setting it back in. When you're looking at a 90-year-old lady, again, maybe perhaps probably likely because of her beauty, brought in as someone, again, Avimelech takes. Who is the defender of Sarah once again? God, not Abraham. Again, he steps up. And this time he does what? Someone tell us about the dream. You can read it if you like.
But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, Indeed, you are a dead man, because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife. But Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, Lord, will you slay a righteous nation also? Did he not say to me, she is my sister? And she herself said, he is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and innocence of my hands, I have done this. And the Lord said to him in a dream, Yes, I know you did this in the integrity of your heart, for I also withheld you from sinning against me. Therefore, I did not let you touch her. Now, therefore, restore the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you shall live.
Let's pause there. Something interesting. The first thing you should note, the prophet part, is this is the first time Abraham gets called a prophet. I mean, when you're listing prophets, how many of us would go, Abraham? It's the first person in the Bible that's called a prophet. Abraham.
By God.
Okay? Something we don't really associate to, but it's very important to pay attention, because when we get to the binding of Isaac and so on, it's going to be prophetic action and also prophetic declaration. Recognize him as such. Okay? But he is also a prophet. So then when we look at those Genesis 15 moments with the covenant and the animals and the walking in the blood scenario, this was future, not just establishing covenant with him. Right? Second part. Did any of you flinch at the fact that God was appearing to a Gentile?
Yes, you mentioned it.
No, we talked about that. It was like,
Hello.
Yeah. But God of the...
You know what I found, and I told them, a window is a chalom, right? And that's a see-through number, right?
Yeah.
From here to there.
Yeah.
And a dream is a chalom. Isn't that so nice?
Yes.
We found that. I found that.
It's an interesting association.
Yeah, so, the dream you also you see from there to there. You see from a...
Yes.
Yeah.
Looking through...
And this is God giving unbelievers dreams, so we can't ever know he's an unbeliever. God's not going to use him. Number one, he did.
Right. And God reaching out to his creation. Okay? You're going to see there are many moments where God will seemingly have relationships with people you probably wouldn't want. Balaam being another one. Ananias and Caiaphas. You remember the high priests that were up there, and one of them prophesied. It is better for one man to die than a whole nation or a whole people. Right? And these guys were on the wrong side of the tracks. And he says, and he prophesied. We obviously understand that the gift of prophecy is a spiritual gift and operated through the Holy Spirit, because only God can tell the future or declare that which is going to happen. But don't discount the fact that God can pitch up and have a meeting with someone that maybe you wouldn't think is the right person. But I like Avimelech's response. He's like, I'm blameless. It's like, I'm innocent. And God's like, yeah, but listen, you're still going to recognize that Abraham, in his calling, has authority in the situation. So let him come and do what for you?
Pray.
Pray for you.
So now Abraham has to intercede. Can you imagine Abraham? So I'm here to pray for you because you didn't know that she was actually my wife, but it was actually my fault. Yeah. And Avimelech is sitting there like this going, yeah, so we're in this situation because of you. Now
You almost got me killed.
Yeah, by the way, your God pitched up and said, I'm a dead man. Can you please pray? What does that do with Abraham? Kind of like the last scenario. He was kind of ousted and then he was given gifts and he was like, look, I thought you guys were going to kill me. Now he's got to actually intercede on behalf of the people he sort of
misled.
So in the midst of that, there's sort of this responsibility coming and kicking in and saying, Abraham, you can't continue to do this. Right? How many times have we read so far in Abraham's life where God's like, don't worry, I got you. I'm your protector. I'm your shield. I'm your provider. So also, in the times when you look through the text, you're going to see the person that appears before you in the beginning of his life and his relationship with God should be vastly different by the time they get to the end. He's busy building him up over years. Faith, obedience, stepping, guidance, relationship, moving him to the next stage. Why? Calling him to be better, but because the next stage is going to be that much more difficult.
Increasing your faith.
When you take kids to schooling, why do you give them grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 to grade 4? Why can't they just do matric and go home?
Because they won't. Because it's very difficult.
Yeah, right.
They would not have an understanding.
They would be completely clueless. So, and then when we go through, think about it, when you went through your high school career, you grumbled at every single level. Oh, my work is so tough. Oh, I'm never going to get this. The next year you go, pay attention. The next year you're like, oh, my work is so tough. And then you look back, oh, that was so easy. But you complained the whole time you did it. It only becomes easy because you passed the previous section. So that same truth with spiritual walk. When God takes you from one section and he goes, all right, are you going to surrender that? Good. Now take your next step, next lesson. Are you going to surrender that? Good. Let's take your next step. And slowly but surely build you into the person that you need to become. Don't rush your steps. We want end goal, perfection, and here. You're going to continually come back to one simple thing. I want in the back of your mind the whole time, what do I want to hear when it's all said and done?
Well done.
So live your life with that goal in mind. Every decision you make, from Shabbat to Shabbat, from feast to feast, everything in the back of your mind, am I aiming for that? Is what I'm doing or what I'm choosing,
Based on that.
is it going to that reality? Okay? It's a process, but you need to understand what you're fighting for. You want to, if I could put before you, let's go back to our analogy with these two young people. If I had to come up to Andre and I said, okay, what type of man do you want to become? And you would give me a list of this ultimate version of Andre. What type of man would you be?
A buff grandpa with long
With a bit of seasoning on top, but yeah.
hair.
A
Buff.
buff.
Not a
Oh,
buff.
a buff.
A
You
buff.
mean
Like a-
like
like a beard and like a...
You mustn't say anything, but
All muscled up
have a
and
buff on.
everything.
A buff.
Okay. So let's go and move away from
No,
physical appearance.
sorry,
What
I-
type of attributes would he have besides lovely head and shoulders?
Kind and gentle man.
God-fearing.
God-fearing, yes.
Right? Someone who is maybe strong enough not only to lead his children and his children's children, amen, right? And then going from that next level of people that would want to come up because he would be able to give them godly counsel. Someone who's maybe slow to anger, someone who's maybe compassionate, someone who's maybe brings those attributes of God and the kingdom out into fruition. Now, how am I going to get there?
One step at a time.
I have to, well, if I want to become wise in godly counsel, I have to spend time in the Word. If I'm going to spend time in the Word, it has to be an active choice. This is a daily thing. It's the same. You want to be above grandpa, you're going to spend years in the gym. It's just what's going to happen. Right? So you're going to have to eat right, you're going to have to train right, and you're going to have to do it. Spiritually speaking, if I'm not in the Word, you are going to be the malnourished grandpa. Right? Because you are not eating your bread. You will not live by bread alone, but by?
Everywhere.
So if that's what's going to build up and that's what's going to make me what I want to be, by the time I'm done, I'm going to look back and I'm going to see what God has done in my life. If I don't aim for that, that has to be a continual thing with intent. It's the same as becoming a disciple. I'm doing this every day. Not once a week, not when things are good or when things are difficult, then I'm at my most pious. But when things are extra special and I've got whatever, then I can kind of live my life. This thing it's a choice. Every day. It's like being married. It's a choice every day you make. Right? It's a choice to love. It's a choice to walk. And this, slowly but surely, getting Abraham, molding him and changing him and saying, listen, you can't run in fear. You're going to have to stand up. Your choices impact other people around you. Avram, do you not understand that if you show fear and you lie, what is your household going to do? And we're going to see that pattern with Jacob and his sons, and how that kind of gets played on. But he's trying to say, listen, I want to give you that pattern. And he builds him up. And God, again, uses him now and he says, let him pray for you. And then you can go off. Right? And what happened? Open book. Was Avimelech happy with this whole scenario?
But he went to his servants.
He
Yeah.
what?
Abimelech went to his servants, and then he told all of the things that he heard to the men, and they were very much afraid.
We're all going to die unless we get hold of Abraham. And when Abraham comes in, what have you done to us?
What's this thing that you have done?
Can you imagine standing there looking at that question? This is an omission.
But isn't the counter the yeah, I thought the fear of God wasn't in his place. Back on you. You didn't have it. I thought you didn't have it, so that's what I did.
Oh yeah, no. God and I were just having a conversation last night, and he said you messed up. And because you messed up, now we're suffering. So
yeah,
we can't do the blame game thing. Omission or even half truth will not only affect your household, but affect those outside. This idea that sin only affects me is incorrect. It affects everything around me. The best description I could probably come up from an image point of view is, think of water that is completely undisturbed, and I take a stone and I drop it in. No matter how small, there's going to be a ripple effect that runs through that entire pond. That's what is going to happen. So we have to make sure, even with everything we say, whether it's, we have to catch ourselves with the idea of exaggeration or omission. Well, I'm not going to tell them that because then they're going to do this, or then what's going to be the case. You know, maybe we leave out details because we don't want to look bad. Or whatever the scenario is, just try and, with clear conscience, with intent, what comes out of my mouth? Okay? Can it be down that line? So that I don't cause them to stumble. All right. Same pattern thereafter. Send them off with a whole bunch of extra stuff as if that's what Abraham needs, right? He's like, oh, here we go. I get a whole bunch of stuff. And you can see the joy in Abraham's face, maybe more shame. But he gets a whole bunch of gifts and then they move on.
We didn't quite understand the 1,000 pieces of silver.
Why?
That's a klomp geld.
That is.
I mean, and it was all for her dignity, that, I mean, she was above a certain price, that there would be no smear on her.
Right.
But
It wasn't
anything
really a
in the
divorce.
1,000?
In many ways you could probably dissect it, but I like to focus more on the picture of the silver.
Okay.
Okay, so if I see silver, I see redemption.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you have been redeemed.
Even though he didn't touch her.
Well,
No,
look
her
at
reputation.
look at it from the outside perspective. Oh, Avimelech took her, then something happened and he chased her away.
Oh yeah.
Right? No, people don't care too much about the details. Oh no, God pitched up. Oh no, she was actually not. No, look, she's obviously not good enough, so they made up a story. Why would he depart with so much stuff to lift her up in this scenario? There must be something more. So I think it was again protecting her. All right, 21. What happened?
The Lord visited Sarah,
Uh-huh.
and he said, the Lord did for Sarah what he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age.
And his old age.
She says so young.
She's like 90 years old, he's 100. He's the old guy.
But back to 20 was that the wombs of Abimelech's.
Oh, they were all.
They were
open, yeah.
that was all restored, etc., etc. But you need to understand, Sarah's got seed in her too. And yes, he like said, I never touched you. But I mean, there could be no.
Yes.
You know, so that he paid the money and gave the redemption, and but I think he
To
must have
unlock
said,
her
look,
seed.
I never did anything. Plus, you know, and
Yes.
you know, here's a clump. It's redeemed. It's all back to normal. In fact, it's better than normal because nothing happened.
Yes.
So now there was a time. I mean, because if no children were born, this wasn't like, oh, I took her on payday and now it's 2 weeks later, and you know.
Oh, look, she's
No,
pregnant.
nobody fell pregnant. Nobody
Yes.
bore children in that time. So this wasn't a little.
Yeah.
God was very busy with Abimelech. No.
Yeah. He like
Go, no. Passion.
he like shut
You know
down
what I mean?
everything. Yeah, absolutely.
No, absolutely, yeah.
Again,
Because you got to
protecting her.
think all these kind of like, you're pregnant.
Mhm.
Just left there. But I mean, they jump, you know, a year or two or whatever.
Yes. There must have been a bit of time in
Yeah, there
between.
must have.
They cannot, God would not have shared
No,
his glory going, oh yeah,
right.
that was Abraham's son and this is the promise of the covenant.
correct.
He already prophesied before,
Yeah.
remember?
That's right. So,
So there
now
was
we're
time.
waiting for that pregnancy, and
Yes.
Abraham wasn't there.
Definitely Abraham's child and Sarah's, and here we go on.
Yeah.
They have a party. What is the verse 8? What is the weaning age roughly?
Oh.
12.
It's a little bit old.
Ek weet nou nie wat dit beteken nie.
Ween
Ja.
beteken ja, dan van die bars af. Ja.
Oh.
Ja.
Oh, weaning. I thought it was winning.
Okay, so some people will say 2, 3 years old up until the age of 7 from what we understand. Okay, so by the time the child was weaned, they gave a banquet. He's now solid foods, everything's good, that's fine, let's go. And look at the response. Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom Hagar had born to Abraham, making fun of Yitzhak. Your translation might say laughing at him?
Scoffing.
Scoffing. It's apparently a funny Hebrew wordplay.
Yeah.
He was laughing, as in he was Yitzhaking at Yitzhak. So some of the rabbis take that to mean that there was a play on he actually wanted to take his place. So if I'm the Yitzhak, he's not the Yitzhak because we're both laughing, or we both are a sign of laughter, I'm the firstborn. He's not. Okay? So they're busy teasing him. Sarah, always one to keep quiet and have a good time when it comes to Hagar. What does she do?
Get rid of that bondswoman.
Which means what in that culture? If I chase her away, what am I saying to her and the son, Ishmael?
It's forsaking them.
Yeah, it's disinheritance.
Sure.
It's like you are not part of this anymore. You are gone. The fact that he probably gave them something to eat and drink was probably on the sly. Because this inheritance thing is like, listen, you're gone. This isn't me giving you gifts and saying, listen, go buy yourself a nice little plot over there. He's chasing her away. Is this the first time that Hagar's been chased away? No, last time she was rebellious, cheeky, what. She found herself away. God said, look, I'm going to bless you and your child, and there you're going to have, he's going to be a mighty man. Now we come back and he gets chased away. But this time, what happens?
Things don't go so well.
Things don't go so well.
No return. Nothing on the deposit box.
What I found interesting was that it says in verse 14, it says she wandered in the desert around Beersheba, even though she only had a skin of water and she had some bread.
So she wasn't purposeful about where she was going.
No. And she also should like, these are my supplies. So, and then go, all right, well, okay, if I'm going to say this and this inheritance, you're done now. Here's 10,000 rand, leave. Are you going to sit and hang around on the outskirts until the money goes out and then go, okay, now what? I'm going to starve to death. Or do you have...
Probably if you're a maid servant, there's not much, it all comes from there and somebody else will drop it here and I'm with the servant there and that's the way the things are done and there's no intuition.
Possible. Or she's probably sitting...
God told her the first time to go back. No, she would sit there and just cry.
Right. So I'm like, well, it's possible the last time I didn't walk far and then God told me to get back to the household, so maybe it's going to be the same thing. But this time, even though Avraham was what? Was he happy about this decision?
No.
He was distressed.
Yeah.
It's like, I now have to leave him. This is the son. I interceded on behalf of him. I love this boy. I raised him. He is probably how old at this point?
17, 18.
All right. At least 16, 17 years old. Some guys believe all the way up to 27.
Sure.
This is not a baby.
No.
He goes out. They're wandering kind of aimlessly in Beersheba, desert space. And then she does what?
Then she
Puts him under a bush and cries.
Puts him underneath a bush because she doesn't want to watch him die. Now, again, different schools of thought. Now, God forbid you're ever in that situation. They're saying it's too much for her. She doesn't want to. So she would rather turn her back and go stand there. Another option is, as a mother, would you really leave your child in that very moment? And this time, instead of weeping and God hearing and crying out, an angel pitches up, and what happens? Whose prayer did they hear?
The boys.
The boys.
Boys. Interesting. Ishmael is apparently a play on the words God hears. God heard him. Just think about that for a second. It's like he's crying out to the God of his father. God had already promised that he would make of him a mighty nation. So if God doesn't fulfill that, that makes God out to be a liar, correct? We know he's not. So this becomes the test. Do you really believe that this is what's going to happen? Avraham, do you trust me? Send him away. It's going to be okay. I've already promised you this is what's going to happen. I want you to hear this. He is testing the faith of Abraham before he's going to test his faith with Isaac. So Abraham tested faith with Ishmael, then he's going to test him with Isaac. Okay? He's building him up. I will take care of him. He will be okay. But Ishmael need to experience this. What I find interesting is that even with all of this, somehow Ishmael walks away from the God of Abraham. Even though he saved him. Okay? He allows him to see what at Beersheba? A well. And this is not uncommon. This is something Abraham did wherever he went, particularly in Beersheba. He dug wells. Okay? He gets restored, and then what happens to him? Okay? And then? Yeah. He ends up with a bride from
Egypt.
And that's a fantastic thing, yes or no?
No.
Oh, I'm going to align myself with my mommy and her beliefs, and this is where we are, and this is where Ishmael again starts to walk away from the faith of his father, maybe out of resentment, maybe out of lack of knowledge, I don't know. And then we have the God keeping the promise of the establishment of the people of Ishmael, known as the Arab people today, and the contention between them and everybody else as God prophesied. All right. From there, we get Avimelech popping in again. But this time he doesn't come alone. Who does he come with? Okay, what does him and the commander of his army come to do? Yeah.
No, they want contention over a well.
Did they know about the contention?
No.
Okay, so then what did they come to do before they found out about the contention?
Or sort it out.
They wanted to enter into a covenant because Abraham was wealthy and he had influence and all the rest of it. Tell me something. If you wanted to make peace or keep peace between you and someone else, would you bring your army commander with you?
You're a big boss.
More like a threat.
A bit of a power play, I think. And Avram being Avram was kind of like, let's argue about the well instead of testing your power. It's like, you guys keep on chasing me away. I dig the stuff, and then you get all grumpy about it, and then you want me to stay here. Oh, I didn't know about it, and then they kind of come to terms. Again, in which territory was this established? Beersheba. Isn't it interesting that Ishmael was in that region wandering around aimlessly, and Abraham is kind of found in the territory of Beersheba? What does that tell you?
It's very long.
He didn't really leave the territory. They were waiting for the return. Okay, and then from there he got established knowing that he wasn't going to come back. Okay, make sense? All right. They sought out the covenant. Beersheba means what? 7 wells, or the oaths.
Oh, yes.
Okay, it's a play on the Hebrew word, be'ir. And then Abraham very happily does what?
7. He plants a tree.
Yeah! What tree did he plant?
Yeah.
Okay, why didn't he plant a date palm or a pomegranate or a fig?
Probably because of the significance that tree represents.
Yes, and that it didn't die. Why a tamarisk tree?
Because the wood.
Because trees are pretty. Doesn't look like it, no.
We won't go into detail about that. What would tamarisk trees use for, guys?
I don't know. I don't even know what the tree looks like.
It's very similar to that which looks like a pine tree. It's got the same sort of little needles.
It's a strong tree.
It is. Okay.
Can survive the harsh conditions.
It's in Beersheba, so it's something that is there. Okay, what you're going to find out when you study a bit of a tamarisk tree is it's extremely slow growing.
Oh.
Now, I'm going to take a tree and I'm going to plant it for shade. Because this is the place I'm going to be. And it's growing very slowly. What is his thinking?
He's gonna be there a long
Be
time.
there for a very long
How
time.
could it be here for even in a day?
He's planting it for his children and his children's children to play under.
So it's more like a
Fatherly thingy thinking.
It's prophetic.
Dyson.
This is my land. I'm establishing a place where my children will be. I've dug wells for them. I'm going to plant trees for them. I'm establishing piece by piece in this small little thing. And the tamarisk is something very interesting. it somehow absorbs the salt from the air, and then it sits on the needles, and it actually creates an aircon effect underneath it. I can take you to a tamarisk tree in Beersheba. You get there in the afternoon, you stand under any tree, it's hot. You stand under that tree, it's cold. So not only does it provide a lot of shade, but it's also your own little aircon.
A little nature aircon.
So again, I want you to look at Avram's heart here. Okay, there is a well not far from one of the wells that they believe that dates all the way back down to Abraham's time period. You can go stand there by the well today. Not too far from that, you see some tamarisk trees. Okay. Now, this is part of the city of Beersheba. He wasn't in the city. He was part of the outside. The city gets established later. But look at what he does. This is our home. This is where Isaac is going to play. This is the place I'm establishing for him. Remember his concern. What is the point of giving me all this stuff if
I don't have
An heir.
So he's going in, like I say, being prophetic about it.
he's looking at Isaac and he's seeing those covenant promises starting to steamroll coming through. And he's looking at them. I want you to think about that. Everything that is promised him, being the father of many nations, that royalty will come from his line. Everything God promised that would come through, Yitzhak. This is all about you. What God is going to do in your life, how he's going to establish those covenant promises through you. Can you imagine sitting on Daddy's lap listening to those promises? God has got a plan. You have been chosen. You are the promised son. You are one of those stars in the sky. This land is yours. Enjoy it. Grow strong. Know that God has called you for this purpose. And as he continues to establish this not only in his sight, he's established it in his son, like the slow glowing tree. You heard me say it before, it's you and me, kid. It's that process that he's kind of establishing through, which is going to make chapter 22 a little bit more tough. Okay? Anything else you want to discuss that we missed?
Why 7 sheep? Auntie Ange, will you get off this fixation of numbers?
No, we're talking about the 7 sheep.
Okay, 7 generally represents what? Okay, so if we were looking along those lines, that this was God's divine plan to establish a covenant of peace in the land so that he wouldn't have to worry about his neighbors. It's one way of looking at it. Okay? Want to stretch your brain cells again? No. Some people are falling asleep.
Shower.
Very good. All right. Okay, Genesis 22. I want to tackle slightly different because I want to set up. A parallel. Okay. So what we're going to do, I want you to pay attention to certain imagery. We're going for. If I were to read the story without names, then we should be able to pick up something, right? All right, so after these things, God tested Avram. He said to Abraham, he answered, "Here I am." Remember that word in Hebrew? Hineni. What does that mean? Basically, I'm here present and ready to answer. Okay, it's to say "here I am" in English just doesn't seem to encapsulate it. It's like saying "I'm here. Tell me what you need." Yes, that would be better. He said, "Take your son, your only son, whom you love." Only son?
Yeah, the one that matters.
Okay. This is the one that Sarah bore to you. This is about Isaac, a loving father taking the promised son. Okay? Whom you love, Yitzhak, and go to the land of Moriah. There you are to offer him as a burnt offering on a mountain that I will point out to you. So you're going to go to the land of Moriah. There is going to be a mount, so we're going to call it Mount Moriah. Avram got up early in the morning, saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him, together with Yitzhak his son. So, when does he leave? Quickly, right, early in the morning. He gets ready to go. If you got a commission like that, how quick would you saddle your donkey?
As soon as possible.
Be like, no, I misheard. Send confirmation, send messages, send someone else. There would probably be a whole bunch of delay.
But if you are certain that it's Allah speaking to you, you're gonna move.
Even if it's a difficult instruction.
No, you would
Doesn't matter the
think
instruction.
about
If you know
it.
it comes from God, you move.
Take your wife and go put her on an altar. She's done now.
Sure.
See,
Wrong example.
now we're gonna have to see. We have to iron out for the therapy sessions after class, right? And if no one sees Willem next week, we don't ask questions. It's a lovely piece of.
If I'm not here next week, you all know why.
He couldn't make it.
He's buried.
He is buried under work.
So he takes he says, and takes 2 young men with him. So we have the father, the son, and 2. Cut the wood for the burnt offering, departed, and went toward the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day, Avram raised his eyes and saw the place in the distance. It was a 3-day journey. Can you imagine? This is where we're going. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're facing. 3 days. Avram said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey. I and the boy will go there, worship, and return to you." How did he expect to return to him when the instruction was given that he says, you are going to make him the offering?
He said it in
It's
faith.
faith.
Okay, and what did he believe?
That God will provide. God will bring him back to life.
Okay, okay, yeah, no, we're going to get to that. But, no, it's not, that he will provide, yes. But at the same time, we need to see the fact that all the promises again that were given to Yitzhak, if God doesn't fulfill it, then what?
Then he would be a liar.
Then he would be a liar, right? So he would actually go to Hebrews 11 verse 19. Someone go there quickly. Hebrews 11 verse 19.
Verse 19.
Yeah. Tell me what it says.
I'm not there yet. But I'll be there once I get there.
Yes, please.
Okay. Hebrews 11 verse 19 says, concluding that God was able to raise him up even from the dead, from which he also received him in a figurative sense. By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come.
Right. So who did they believe that he would raise him up from the dead? Who believed that?
Abraham.
Abraham believed in a resurrection. He's never seen one. He's sitting there and he's going, well, okay, well, God, you made the promise that Yitzhak would be the guy, and if I kill him, you're going to have to raise him up because you still got work for him. You still got promises for him. You're still going to establish this thing. Okay, and that's important. By faith, he believed that this promised son would be resurrected. Okay? So, he says, Avram took wood for the burnt offering and laid it on Yitzhak, his son. How old is Yitzhak, more or less, in this time period?
You said he was old.
Right, we believe somewhere close to 30.
That's like a grown man. Why do they keep saying boy then?
Yeah,
Take
well, it
boy.
says his son or, yeah, Ben. When
okay.
Isaac is the one who takes the wood on his back. He took in his hand the
Plus minus how old?
30.
So same age that Jesus has started
Yeah.
his.
Yeah,
Ministry, yeah.
There comes
Yeah.
the similarities.
Then he took in his hand the fire and the knife, and they both went on together. Yitzhak spoke to Avram his father. My father. He answered, Here I am, my son. He said, I see the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Avram replied, God will provide himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son. And they both went on together.
I can just imagine me asking. Just like,
Run.
I was just looking at him. I was like,
No.
where's the offering?
Here's a good chick. All right. Can someone else read it in a different translation? Verse 8. Avram said, or Avram replied,
And Abram said, My son Elohim does provide for himself a lamb for the ascending offering, and the two of them went together.
okay, God or Elohim provides himself for himself, this lamb. Okay, a lamb provided by God. All right. They came to the place of God they came to the place God had told them about, and Avram built the altar there. He set wood in order, bound Yitzhak his son, and laid him on the altar. How old is Avram at this point? If Isaac was born to him at 100,
150.
roughly speaking, if Isaac,
En dan sy 30 is sy pa, hy moes seker maar self opgeklim het,
yes,
willingly.
and who would have bound him? Would Isaac would have had to?
Yeah.
Ja, give his hand.
They weren't, he wasn't fighting.
No.
He didn't. So, but look at the trust of the son.
In his father.
They've laid the wood down. Abraham looks at him and goes, trust me.
Sure.
Okay.
What did John say when he was doing the baptism? When he was busy baptizing people.
Mhm.
Here comes the
One, you know,
The Lamb
not
of God.
fit-
Lamb of God.
Yeah.
And he said, God will provide himself a lamb.
Mhm.
His son,
You're starting to see pictures.
Yeah.
We're going to draw them. That's why I'm stopping at each point, making you thinking about it. Okay. He set the wood. He bound Yitzhak his son and laid him on the altar on the wood. Okay. The wood he carried is now that which he is fastened to or laid on. Then Avram put out his hand and took the knife to kill his son. All right. So, no, wait, let me finish reading the chapter. But the angel of Adonai came to him out of heaven. Avram, Avram, he answered, Here I am. He said, Don't lay your hand on the boy. Don't do anything to him. For now I know that you are a man who fears God, because you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. Avram raised his eyes and looked, and there behind him was a ram caught in the bushes by his horns. Okay? Avram went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering in place of his son. All right, so how was the ram caught?
by his horns.
By his horns. So something thorny wrapped around his head.
Sure.
Abraham called the place Adonai Yireh, or Adonai will see to, or the Lord will provide. As it is said to this day, on the mountain Adonai is seen. Now, according to 2 Chronicles 3 verse 1, Mount Moriah is where?
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem. The same Mount Moriah where the temple stood.
Sure.
Okay. I want that in the back of your mind. The angel of Adonai called to Avram a second time out of heaven. He said, I've sworn by myself, says Adonai, that because you have done this, because you haven't withheld your son, your only son, I will most certainly bless you, and I will most certainly increase your descendants to as many as there are stars in the sky or grains in the sand of the seashore. Your descendants will possess the cities of their enemies, and by the descendants all the nations of the earth will be blessed, because you obeyed my order. All right, so let's draw pictures before we conclude the chapter. Break it down for me. Where are they going? Okay, we're going to Mount Moriah. Right, next picture we have a father, we have the son or the promised son, and we have two young men.
Oh, that's what.
Okay, the son carries
The word.
the wood on
Mm.
his back. There is mention of the lamb provided by God or the Lamb of God. The son is bound. Trusting. Oh yeah, let's go there.
God, and the son gave himself freely.
Laid on wood. I'm gonna go trusting Father. And we've got the ram. And its head in thorns. And that became Adonai. Yeah. Right. So, what you guys already started to piece together is that we're actually talking again of Abraham the prophet foreshadowing the crucifixion. Where did the crucifixion take place? In Jerusalem on Mount Moriah.
What?
Yo.
Yeah.
Okay? Remember, Jerusalem has got 7 hills. One of those hills are called Mount Moriah. According to 2 Chronicles 3 verse 1, Mount Moriah is the place where the temple stood. On that hill, on that slope, this is where, just outside the city, near the city gate, closest to that side, we believe Damascus Gate was probably the most likely in this time. He was crucified just outside on Mount Moriah.
So they were literally on the same place.
Remind me to talk to you guys about how the temple was done with Mount Moriah, please. Oh, you know what, let me do it now.
But
When, yeah.
I have a question.
Mhm.
The place where he was crucified was called?
Golgotha, place of the skull.
Okay.
But that was also on Mount Moriah.
So it's all just a big mountain.
Okay, so what we have when you go to Israel, you have Mount Sion. Mount Sion is in Jerusalem.
Okay.
So is Mount Moriah or Temple Mount,
Okay.
and so is Mount Scopus. It's also in Jerusalem, but it's on the outside.
Okay.
All right, so they've got different heads of.
Makes sense, yeah.
Different
Okay.
part of the
Yeah.
mountain.
It is part of the mountain, the greater mountain. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you study it out, when they did the excavations, or when you look at the Temple Mount where it stood, right? You guys have all seen the big thing of Temple Mount platform where the Dome of the Rock stands, right? Okay. Now think about it. The hill was basically done like this. Solomon builds a temple that can only fit basically onto the hill. That's our flat surface. Okay? That temple gets destroyed. Zerubbabel comes and builds the same temple, just with less opulence. Not so much bling. Establishes in the same place. Herod comes in and says, the temple's too small, I want to make a big temple. Cuts out into the mountain and builds up 4 retaining walls. And he creates a giant platform. 144,000 square meters. 12,000 by 12,000.
That's good.
It's a big piece. They say 12 rugby fields, basically, next to each other.
By hand.
Right. Now, why is it called the Dome of the Rock?
Is it like a round mountain?
Because it was
It was the punt van die mountain
Because there's a
geweest.
section of the mountain that sticks out. So when you go in there, you're not allowed to, but when you go in there, there's just a piece of the mountain. Now, if I go through all the pain of cutting sections into the mountain and building that wall just to develop a platform so I can build my temple, why didn't I cover the top of the mountain?
Can we use it as an altar or not?
You're not allowed to.
Build an altar. No, because traditionally speaking, that is exactly the place where Abraham offered up Isaac.
Oh, wow.
Oh, so they kept that place holy, or as a
As a remembrance. Isn't it
Preserved
interesting that we're not even focusing on Christ, and yet that is immortalized in the place of the binding.
it still stands today.
Still there, if you can actually get access to it.
You're not allowed to go in there.
Yeah, apparently some person went in there with bombs strapped to him, and now they said no more visitors. But anyway, I think you can do online 3D tour. Okay? So, look at the element. A loving father takes his promised son, along with two men. When Christ was being crucified, he had a guy on his left and on his right. He went and he carried the wood. Take up your cross. He carried which part of the cross for extra points?
To the side.
Only the single piece.
Right, only the crossbeam, the big piece, too big for someone to carry, was actually fastened and laid on the ground in the place of public execution. It was normal. So we leave our poles close by, near the city gate. We want it to be public, we want it to be close. The place where we believe it happened, Golgotha, you could still see about 100 years ago, there was an image of a skull that was actually etched into the mountain. It was part of a quarry, right? So it was not on a big hill far away where you could see them over there. It was probably very close to the city gate because Rome wanted to make a point. If you mess with Rome, this is what happens to you. Remember the height of the cross? Roughly about this high.
Yeah.
Why? You can stare into their eyes, you can spit at them, you can mock them, you can laugh at them. Remember, he was talking to them the entire time.
The cross that Jesus was sacrificed on.
Every cross.
Oh.
The point was to come really close to it, and remember they were pretty short people, and laugh at them.
Yeah, last time you said that, I started crying.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was like a high.
That makes it sort of distance.
No, because
Yeah. So he takes it, and they have the cross beam which he carried. They take that and attach it to the one that's probably on a bit of a pivot, and then nail him to them. Josephus tells us they use nails for everybody. No, only use nails for those whom they hated. But in the midst of that, we see that, as Willem pointed out, the Lamb of God who comes to take the sin of the world, the son was bound. Remember, he willingly laid down his life.
Yes.
Isaac willingly went trusting his father. The promises that you have given me still have to be established. This is what, Lord, you're going to have to do. According to Hebrews, the belief was in resurrection. He laid himself on the wood. Yeshua at a moment could have asked for the angels to come and he would have rescued. He went willingly, trusting the Father. And from there, we see the second part of Yeshua. He didn't get off. God will provide the ram. He will provide that lamb. Someone with a crown of thorns. And what will he provide? Adonai Yireh. Mariah's other name is Salem. Shalom. So Jerusalem, his name is a combination of Yireh, Shalom. God will provide peace in the place where a loving father takes the promised son with two witnesses, and he carried the wood, being the Lamb of God, allowed himself to be bound, trusting the Father for resurrection, and inherited the crown of thorns. Okay, when you see the binding of Isaac, again, just like Genesis 15, is a prophetic foreshadow of the cross. Any questions? Okay. Because you did this, listen to this promise again. Because you have done this, you have not withheld your son, your only son, I will certainly bless you, and I will most certainly increase your descendants to as many as there are stars in the sky or sand in the seashore. I want you to think of this as believers. Your descendants will possess the cities of your enemies, and by your descendants all the nations of the earth will be blessed because you obeyed my order. The world will be blessed because Christ gave up his life. And that had to come through a physical seed promised to Abraham through Yitzhak, and had to become the fullness of the spiritual reality many, 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 many years later. So Abraham returned to his young men. They got up and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham settled in Beersheba. Afterwards, Abraham was told, Milcah too has borne children to your brother Nahor. Uz, his firstborn, Buz, his brother, Kemuel, the father of Aram, Kesed, Hazor, Pildash, Yidlaf, and Betuel. Betuel fathered Rivkah. These 8 Milcah bore to Nahor, Abraham's brother. His concubine, whose name was Reumah, bore children also, Tevach, Gacham, Tachash, and Maacha. So we go from the binding of Isaac to, oh, by the way, your brother had some kids.
Your brother was busy.
And he had how many children? 12. Interesting. Did you pick up a name of a certain lady in that list?
Yeah. Isaac.
Rivkah, Rebecca, mentioned here by name. The promised son, he was saying, your wife's already.
Wife is waiting for you.
In the midst of their own reality in this moment, in testing Abraham's faith, testing Isaac's faith, testing God's promises in a sense of, will he do this? He's already set up the next marriage. Almost in as a side note. But he's going, no, this has been part of my plan to build up to this point. We're going forward. Any questions? No?
I just think it's amazing.
Which is what?
Yeah, Ishmael also had 12, eh?
Yeah.
Ishmael, him,
Nahor.
Isaac,
Yeah.
12. Guys, 12.
Just
Guys,
No
12.
It's messy.
Biblical authority. 12 guys.
You can have 6 double ones.
What happened was verse.
Yeah.
It's incredible how we see the crucifixion from the beginning. We never,
No.
you read it, but you never see it.
That's because, like, in the way we get taught to analyze things in that Greek mindset is it's very much about definitions. So that's a story between Abraham and Isaac. But if I took away the names and I told you that story without telling you about the binding of Isaac, you would immediately think of the cross. But if I was a Jewish person who only grew up studying Torah, I'd be like, come on, it's the binding. And you're like, yes, but it's actually Christ. What do you mean? And it becomes that prophetic foreshadow of things that are like laid out in, this is the way it's going to happen. It's only when we look back and we see how God had already been giving us snippets and snippets and snippets. And that's why Yeshua said, if you didn't believe in Moses, you won't believe in me. One of the greatest prophets of Mashiach is Torah. He's the word in the beginning. You talk about, I mean, just Genesis 15 with the animals and then the binding of Isaac, it should be enough. This is only Abraham's life. We haven't even got to the names of the sons of other things, or Genesis 5 with the genealogy of how that was actually a prophetic foreshadow as well. I mean, there's so much. This should reaffirm your faith in the fact of God knew exactly what was going to happen, choosing the right time, the right place to fulfill every one of these elements. That when people, and sadly this is often the case, more often than I want to even think about, when people go back and they study Torah, somehow many of them walk away from Christ because of it. when you look with looking for Christ in every element thereof, there's no way you're going to get away from it. Right? He is everywhere. And for people then to turn around and go, oh, that's just the Old Testament, we don't need to pay attention. You miss him. Yeah? So, you let it sink in. Do you guys want me to carry on?
Yes.
Okay.
We did homework.
We did homework.
But we've done our homework.
Yeah.
Didn't we? Eat some more?
You know,
2 weeks ago I went to Cape Town and Jan drove with me. I gave him a lift back to Cape Town and I told him the story about Noah.
Yeah.
I first told him the story.
Yeah.
And, he knows the story.
Yeah.
And then I told him the story.
I'm going to say, I'm sitting, I'm almost turning 44 on the 24th of September, and I did not know this.
You know, wonderful, hey? You were not excluded. You were included.
Yeah.
I did not know about Isaac and
Yes.
the crucifixion and everything that plays together.
Yeah.
I did not know.
Just one simple reality that was the same place.
Take away the names.
Okay. Chapter 23.
It's so simple.
Why didn't I see it?
Yeah.
No one ever told
It
you.
comes to mind because in relationship we always personalize this, and God doesn't change. So what has He written and said to you? You are going to
Okay.
what has He got for you? That, you know, I mean, we love it, this hindsight, but the hindsight only. How great is our God? How great is our God? That's what hindsight is to us. He told me that. I remember he said. I mean, we all landed up here. That's enough. Mind blowing.
True story.
Yeah, 2 years ago, I didn't know I was going to sit here.
No, none of us knew we were going to sit here. The most
Know
prepared,
about Vince and
yeah,
Tanya.
yeah.
We
The
didn't
most
know about
prepared
alcohol.
people were there
Yeah.
because he's
Guys,
been
weird.
getting equipped.
Thank you.
I'm so
Yes.
yeah.
So, but I mean, if he didn't do his thing, then she'd be ready for nothing.
And we've got you.
No, but I'm just saying, can you see? There's
His
I mean,
plan
at
for
the
each and
end-
every one of us is so
Yeah.
it never even says it doesn't
Exact.
say. It doesn't say the end. No, it never says the end. It says amen, which means we agree. Yeah, we are totally we're on this. This is what we're eating. This is our.
So your Bible starts from the back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no, it's written in Hebrew. Yeah, Hebrew. Yeah, I'm
Genesis is from the
Yeah.
back.
Now do you understand why I speak like I do?
Yeah.
At the back. Vince, can I ask you a question? Please
Sure.
read verse 18 again.
18. Oh, what? 20 of 28? 22. It says, and by your descendants all the nations of the earth will be blessed because you obeyed my order.
My boy.
That to me is the most amazing verse. Because you obeyed all the nations. Not a nation.
That's what I asked Vince about
All.
the nations. Yeah. And I cannot be. Ek kan nie gestraf word vir wat my oupa en almal gedoen het nie, because I love the Lord.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
It's just
Obedience brings blessing. Obedience not only to you, but to those closest to you. It's the same ripple effect that happens, right? So again, if we just take a step back, and he was this meticulous trying to give us a picture of Christ, and he's gone through a large amount of effort to get you into this place, what is the expectation of your future?
yeah.
There's
It just
details.
makes me think, and I'm so much, Uncle H, where's your damn tissues today?
There's some over there.
Toilet, we're up to toilet roll status.
It's also good, I'm over there to be a role. It's just
Did you?
amazing, we're sitting here learning so much, and even me in my pictures, just obeying in drawing a picture that he gives me to draw.
Yeah.
you won't know what it will mean for someone
somebody
down
else.
the line.
A blessing to the nation.
Might be a blessing into the nation. Might be that moment when I like, Father, if you're real, you're going to send me something, and I only like pictures, so you better send me the right one, that I know that Christ is real, and then...
Yeah, that's where I'm at the moment.
Just do it.
And to me, that is the most amazing verse in this whole chapter.
Well, that's for you then.
I've got written here in 22 verse 2, I've made a note when he says, take now your son, your only begotten son, your only son.
Yeah.
And I've got written here, it's the first time father to only son.
Yes.
I love you. Love. The
He,
first mention of love.
in my mind, I'm more, the parallel is so much there
Yeah,
already.
it's
Remember at the baptism, right?
Yes.
This is my son,
Son.
whom I love,
Whom I love, yeah.
right?
But this was the first mention, yeah.
And again, so that when that verse pops up,
Yeah. Then you know, like, huh? Who's this?
it's Abraham. Okay? All right, 23. You guys can process that reality. Sarah lived to be 127 years old. Okay, and the way this
And then she died.
Chanel's theme for the afternoon. the way this gets broken up in the Hebrew, it's 127. All right. So it doesn't just say 127. It goes literally. She was 127.
Mine just 120.
I know. That's a way. It's nothing wrong with the translation, but they look at it and then they go, why would God sort of break it up into those three things? And then rabbis being very creative will say something like, well, at 100 she actually looked like she was 20, but she also had the purity of a 7-year-old. Okay. Sharing that with you
How old
one
was
way.
she when she had Isaac?
90. Okay, so it's a fair chunk. Again, you probably would have gone like, oh, she's 60 years old. In these times, she's lived to a long age. Then, it's fine.
Now tell me, what was she doing when Isaac said, Yitzhak and I we're going to go climb that mountain?
I don't know, maybe interceding. Yeah, mommy was not on that trip. You want to do what to my boy? So, she lived to be 127 years old. These were the years of Sarah's life. Okay, this portion that kind of breaks up is Chaya Sarah. It is the life of Sarah, the culmination of who she is. Okay, now if we had to take back and we could throw yourself into biblical culture, do I remember you on your birthday?
Only on the...
Biblically, no. You were naked, you were loud, and you shouted at us when you came in. What good did you give us? Nothing. So we don't remember the day of your birth. We celebrate, Baruch Hashem, we have a child, but that's the end of it. What they do is they remember the year of your death, and it becomes an anniversary thing.
Oh.
Okay? So what is it? It's a time of remembrance. So if you died on the 20th of August, we will remember the 20th of August. And we will remember a life well lived, hopefully.
And light again.
They do. They light the candle, they put it there, they go visit the grave. And if you were important, they would take a little stone and they would put it on as a stone of remembrance.
Oh, that's say in the cemeteries on the...
If you see a Sadiq, they clean them off. But if you look hard enough, sometimes you see a stone coffin, right? Because that becomes a patriarchal tomb or a family burial tomb, right? So it has the top layer with, sometimes they just have the family name. They lift that off, not underneath it, there's another stone slab. They can pull that one out, and then they have bone boxes, ossuaries underneath it. Okay, that type of practice goes all the way back to biblical times, where they would use a cave, different sections in, collect your bones. When it says he was gathered to his forefathers or his ancestors, it was a literal, we put your bones into a box and we put you next to your dad.
Okay.
Okay, this is a family tomb. This is our one. So sometimes when you open up one of those things, you will see generations of. Okay, so today, they will look at the tomb like that, and then they will go with their stone of remembrance and saying, this is the life you lived. And every year they will remember your life. Remember when they did that. Remember it was Opa who was the one who taught us this. Remember it was him who came in and made this whole shift in our lives, who brought Shabbat and Passover and this and that. Remember the time he did this. Remember his laugh. Remember whatever. And you would spend that time just remembering that someone who was trying to be righteous, establishing that in your home. Okay? So when you see something like this, when they come in at the end of their life, I'm going to make it a practice to go stop, and you're going to go, what do you remember about it? So off the top of your head, before we get into this little chapter, what do you remember about the life of Sarah?
She was beautiful.
It's very distracting. The end. What else do you remember?
Sy het gaan bid toe hulle gaan bid het.
She had one son.
She only had one son.
She told Abraham, "You're never getting a son. Go take my mate servant."
Okay, so
I
she
can't
was,
get over that.
she was the one that beat
actually
Hagar.
very faithful and loyal, because he said, if you want to bless me, come and join my lives. Come with me, come on my journey. If you want to bless me, keep with my lives to save my... So I would tough cookie, but she submitted.
Okay. What else?
What are we supposed to remember?
Nothing. I just want to
remember
just prod it.
Sarah?
What do you remember?
She could back.
Wat onthou jy?
And quickly. Took no nonsense.
What about
No
I just
nonsense.
want to know, so did they never celebrate a birthday?
No, it wasn't really common in their practice.
No.
They would remember how many years old they are, because that's how many seasons they would go through. So you're like 20 summers or 30 summers. And we were called like the Levites. You had to be a certain age to go in to do certain things. So they definitely counted age. They just never celebrated it like we did.
But it's not a sin.
No, it's not spoken against at all. Okay. So when you think of maybe Sarah, how many of you think about the story of her taking 3 seahs of flour and gonna go make enough bread for
I
that
actually sort of think she makes good bread.
amazing bread?
Loves bread.
Yeah, she's a good wife.
She was the one that Messiah referenced when it said the kingdom of heaven is like a woman who takes 3 measures of flour and just goes and bakes some bread.
Sure.
She was the one that was chosen by God to walk by Abraham's side. She quarreled a lot, but she also... Before you start patting yourself on the back,
But I do thank God for you.
remember, before you get to that point, that created an Ishmael. Don't quarrel. She was one who was handpicked to chosen to walk with Abraham to fulfill this promise. People focus a lot maybe on Avram and Yitzhak and Yaakov. Remember, they without their spouses.
Yeah, she's the man wife.
Okay, she was the one. If we want to talk about Abraham being the father of our faith, in a sense, he was the guy who walked away from the world and said, "I'm walking with God." She would then be considered the mother that did the same. She allowed things to happen where she probably couldn't. Circumcision being one of them. Circumcision, where you were taking my son. What is going on with this reality? Where you taking my son? Right.
Where you taking my baby?
It's over at night.
Don't worry, close your eyes, it'll be over in a bit. Right. So this is the story of her life. 127 years old, these were the years of Sarah's life. Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, also known as Hebron. Now, Kiryat Arba will later be mentioned in Joshua 15, Joshua 21, and Judges 1. Kiryat Arba means the settlement of the 4. Originally inhabited by Anak, or giants, and 3 sons. So the settlement of 4, some we would go into Arba, a man also, as in there were 4 giants that came from there. For 10 extra points, who conquered Hebron when they went into the land?
Joseph.
No. Caleb.
Close.
Caleb, the older guy who went up, and he does an interesting story which we will get to. But when you talk about David taking on Goliath, we kind of offshoot the fact that these guys went out and cleared
What
out a
was the
whole city
reward?
of giants.
What was it? Was
His
it a
daughter.
chocolate I won?
Did you want a chocolate? That can be arranged. All right. So, Hebron. This is the same Hebron where the cave of Machpelah will stand. Also, David will reign out of Hebron. This is a big place. Okay? It is in the land of Canaan. Abraham came to mourn Sarah and weep for her. Then he got up from this dead one and said to the sons of Chet. So he sits Sheva, in a sense, he mourns her, and then he goes to negotiate. I am a foreigner living as an alien with you.
Sojourner.
No, it's fine. He says, I'm not part of this land. He owns this land. God had promised this to him.
But he wasn't born there.
But look at the humility when he came in.
He humbled himself before them.
So remember, he's planted a tamarisk tree and all those things. So he says, I'm a foreigner living as an alien with you, or a sojourner. He says, let me have a burial site with you so that I can bury my dead wife. The sons of Seth answered Avram, listen to us, my Lord. You are a prince of God among us, so choose any of the tombs to bury your dead. Okay? I want you to hear negotiation, which means flattery. If I butter you up, you're going to pay more. Okay? Did they realize that Abraham was a wealthy guy?
Yes.
Yeah. So he says, there you are, Captain Rich Pants. Yeah, come walk amongst the mortals. Pick a tomb. What they're setting up is for you special price. Okay?
Called inflation.
Yeah. Says, not one of us would refuse you his tomb for burying your dead. Avram got up, bowed before the people of the land, the sons of Chet, and spoke with them. If it is your desire to help me bury my dead, then listen to me. Ask Ephron, the son of Sochar, to give me the cave of Machpelah, which he owns, the one at the end of the field. He should sell it to me in your presence, so with all the leaders present, for its full value. Then I will have a burial site of my own. Ephron the Hittite was sitting amongst the sons of Chet, and he gave Avram his answer in the presence of the sons of Chet who belonged to the ruling council of the city. No, my lord, listen to me. I'm giving you the field with its cave. I'm giving it to you in the presence of my people. I give it to you. Avram bowed before the people of the land and spoke to Ephraim in hearing. Please be good enough to listen to me. I will pay the price of the field accepted from me. I will bury my dead there. So, look at the negotiation. I'm here presenting myself. This is why I'm here. This is what I want from you. And he starts to narrow down where and who is responsible. Then him and I start to negotiate in between everybody. But Ephraim answered Avram, my lord, listen to me, a plot of land worth 400 silver shekels. What is this between me and you? Okay, now to give you a bit of an indication, when Yeshua was betrayed, how many shekels did they betray him for? 30. That was the price of a life. How many years is it before where he's quoting 400? While you're thinking of that, according to Jeremiah 32, he had to redeem a piece of land. Right? Jeremiah redeemed a piece of land as a prophetic action that the people were going to come back. How much did he pay to redeem his land? 17 shekels.
Oh, glory.
Now this chop is talking about 400.
400.
How
You must have
big
worked
is
for
that?
SARS.
The cave that he's buying? Oh.
He knew who he was talking to.
Yeah.
Listen here, Captain Moneybags.
There you go.
Yeah.
You want to buy this house? Oh, well, it's actually only worth, so much. But for you, what's 20 million between friends? It's not money for you.
No, nothing.
You're a billionaire. What do you want from me? You want it? Pay me for it.
Yeah.
This
Like
is
you
what's
wearing
going
that
on.
T-shirt. I now will talk about your job. that you'll make him dead for. Because, you know.
It's a long story.
Yeah, exactly. But still, but we have something to talk about. And it'll work your heart and what he knows. this-
Now, on
he
top of
wants
that,
this
yes,
real day.
like Auntie is pointing out, Abraham is in a state of mourning.
Yeah.
They're playing on it.
And he values Sarah.
So it's like, oh.
It's peanuts. She got
Yeah.
him 1,000.
So pay off your
Pay
debt.
for it yourself.
You think Abba was like,
A third for you, 2/3 for me.
Abimelech, just send him with some money, he's going to need it later. So he goes, and 400 silver shekels. What is it between you and me? Just bury your dead. Like, give me my money and let me move on with my life. Abraham got to the point of what Ephraim had said. I see you. So he weighed out for Ephraim the amount of money he had specified in the presence of the sons of Chet, 400 silver shekels of the weight accepted among merchants, basically 10 pounds of silver. Thus, the field of Ephron in Machpelah, which is in Mamre, the field, its cave, and all its trees and around it were deeded to Avram as his possession in the presence of the sons of Chet who belong to the ruling council of the city. So think about this again. Abraham owns a piece of land that was given to him. The first thing he owns is a grave. He had wells,
The only thing he owns.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, he laid claim to the wells, but they
Well,
just
yeah.
kind of took the territory anyway.
And then all the sheep and cattle and what.
Well, yeah, but that was all part of the thing as you moved around. But this is fixed.
Fixed
Right.
asset, yeah.
This becomes an interesting place. Who gets buried in that cave?
Him, Sarah, Isaac, Rebecca, Joseph,
Jacob
not Jacob and the other one.
and Leah.
Leah, not Rachel.
Hmm. So, 6 people,
3 generations.
they get married in this cave. Okay? We'll talk about that in a second. Then Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah by Mamre, also known as Hebron, in the land of Canaan. The field and its cave had been purchased by Avram from the sons of Chet as a burial site which belonged to him. All right.
Does Machpelah mean anything?
I can't think of it off the top of my head.
I'm going to make a note.
Yes, please do.
But do you think that he received like title or something?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, indeed, there was definitely a piece of paper
Yeah.
that he would be able to go up to those people and say,
Yeah.
this is my land. It was
Which
weighed
you
out,
named in
the
hearing of
leaders
the
have.
sons. Yeah, so he's got, you were there when we did this.
It was a very formal ruling when he went. He spoke to everybody that needed to be there. And they couldn't have backed out on this, so he was quite smart.
Before all who went in at the gate.
Yes,
And that's when the leaders sat and they held court.
right. Okay, so this was established, no one could turn around, he owned it. Interesting thing about Machpelah, when the 12 spies were sent in to go and check out the land, it mentions in Torah where it goes, they went out, and then all of a sudden it shifts to a singular, and he went to Hebron. All right? Who inherited that territory?
Canaan.
Right, so we think that Caleb was the one. When everybody else was spying out the land, Caleb was the one visiting the burial tomb of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Okay.
I want you to think about that. They were sent out with a mission. Go and look at the land, go and look at the cities, go and look at the fruit, go and look at all the stuff. And Caleb's like,
I'm going to go look at that.
I'm going to go stand there.
Pay my respects to it. Yeah.
And you sit there and think, and we're like, can you imagine? Avram, remember the promise of Genesis 15. 400 years we were slaves. We're at the border, we're coming in.
400 years we were slaves. 400 we paid for this cave. Yeah. The 10th of that we spent travelling up and down.
Yeah.
Can we have a talk?
He sat there at probably the cave of Machpelah, I think, and
Is
this
it
is
still
this
around?
me, yeah?
Yes, it must be. Hey?
Yeah, we visited
Have
it
you
once.
gone there?
Yeah.
Okay, that would be interesting.
That you're sitting over there and they were like, this is the place were coming in. The seed that were promised, that was coming in to take inheritance of the land, was now going to happen. Now we know the cave of Machpelah is still there because when Herod built the temple, okay, now typical Herod style building, to gain popularity with the people, he put a similar building over the cave of Machpelah. So it looks exactly the same as Temple Mount. Right? So when you go there, the caves are underground and you stand on a platform above it, knowing that you're standing there above Abraham's bones. It's undisputed. Without fact, this is 100% there.
Oh, that's just destroyed my bucket list. But you know, I don't really want much, but I'd like to go put a stone there.
Yeah.
A little stone.
A little, even if it's just a
little pebble.
Yeah.
On the end with over 400 pounds of silver. On her arm.
Like 10 pounds. I buy this piece.
Aaron, can we talk?
Yeah, it's a very special place, hotly contested though.
Yeah.
We nearly got arrested there once.
Oh wow.
Makes sense.
Fantastic.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
it does. Oh, we went in on a we went in on a Shabbat, and then our tour guide, a lovely man by the name of Meni Yitzhaki, and he took us in because we've never been there and we know that that's a no-go place. So if you're driving an Israeli car, you're not allowed to go there, you know, because if anything happens, which things happen quite often, insurance doesn't cover you. So we tell Meni this, and he says, no, look, eventually we negotiate with Meni, we're not allowed to take this car, but we want to go. So Meni says, all right, I'll take you. So what does he do? He hires a car and he comes to fetch us. And he takes his rental car into these areas which you're not allowed to go into because it's occupied. And you start noticing with the big gates behind you, right? You're leaving areas that are of Israeli safety. Israeli army is not in control as much as they would like. And then all of a sudden you start to see guys, every time there was a car, maybe every 10 meters, there was a guy with a really big gun. And they were all very, very ready and very focused. And you're driving past in your little rental car with a big smile on your face going, please don't let anything happen. And as we pulled up, being a Shabbat, we only found out on the day. He said, okay, well, we had to see them. The guy was fine. Many's a registered tour guide. And they said, okay, yeah, no, you can go. And then he said, yeah, but what are they? And then he said, first he said Jewish. And then he said, no, they're Muslim, they're Christian. So then the guy goes, okay, no, then stop, they can't go. He goes, what are you talking about? He says, no, it's Shabbat. The synagogues are active. Only Jews are allowed to go. He says, but they're from South Africa and they've traveled all this way. And he starts an argument with this guy. And then he stops and he goes, oh, no, it's fine. They're Jewish. And then he walks away. You don't need...
400 shekels?
Yes.
Let's just say the nice security man was not happy with Meni's attitude and then started shouting at him. And then he says, how can you say this? On 1 second they're Christian, then they're Jewish, then they're Jewish. What are you talking about? You're lying to me. You're going to get yourself into trouble. And lots of shouting. And then eventually I caught on what they were saying and I pointed out the tzitzit and I said, Maze? And then they were like, he looked at me and then he looked at him and then he shouted at him some more because he got his names wrong. I wasn't going to get involved. And then we were allowed in to go there. And then we sat in the synagogues above some of the bones.
And that all because you were wearing your tzitzit.
Yeah, that's the only reason we got in. It was we were they were confused. But anyway, that got us in.
Many. What's it?
Yes.
What's the handwriting on the wall? Many.
Tekal Ufasen, yeah. So yes, if we go to Hebron, we'll need to go with many and make sure you're all Jewish by Shabbat. Yeah.
The name Machpelah on Google says that the meaning is tower.
Tower.
Machpelah.
Oh, yes, strong tower. Machpelah.
That's like Migdal.
Okay, Migdal.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to point out?
What is numbering?
Happy days? Okay.
Hamsters all passed out. All of them. I had
You're saying the
I had
names of
78.
who were all buried in there? Is all of them
Abraham, Sarah,
Yeah.
Isaac, Rebecca,
Yeah.
Jacob, and Leah.
Makes you think, hey,
Mm-hmm.
he can love you more than the other one, but you don't get buried there.
Mm-hmm.
Praying.
That's true.
That's quite an honor for Leah, hey. He was always not good enough,
Yes. And she was buried there on
Yeah.
alongside them.
because then that's what you remember.
True story.
Mm.
All right.
God does not like favoritism.
No. There we go. Father, we just want to thank you again for this time. We thank you for our family, Father. We thank you that we sit at your feet today. We thank you that we can just freely come together, Father, and just with one heart and one mind study your word. Pray that it, Father, it would not just be head knowledge, but heart knowledge, Father. And we just thank you for opening up our eyes to these foreshadows of Christ, Father, just to reaffirm that you have called him from the beginning, Father, that you have called us, that we are yours, Father, through that sacrifice. And we just give you glory. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen.